Welcome back to Otaku no Video. Thank you very much for joining me, where today I'm going to try to explain Boogiepop Phantom. You may have just finished watching Boogiepop Phantom, switched off your device, and gone online and said, "What the heck did I just watch? What was that thing?" I'm going to try to explain that. Now, there's a lot going on. I'm not going to explain everything in this video because I'll do that in other videos. We'll try to get to all of the details, but for now, what's going on? Well, Boogiepop Phantom begins by explaining or showing you one of the things that sort of started and kicked off the whole story, but it's not clear what's going on. So the show is basically kicked off with this event called the Column of Light event. The Column of Light is this thing that occurred at this place called Shinyo Academy. It involved this fight between a sort of supernatural superhero called Boogiepop and this monster called the Manticore. And they were struggling, and this thing, there's a column of light right there. You saw it. And this column of light caused essentially these supernatural powers to emanate out from this column of light and affect a bunch of people nearby. They seem to only affect young teenagers. Don't know what exactly why or what was going on there. And there are again some hints dropped, but basically that happened. When that happened, as a result of that event, both Boogiepop, this sort of supernatural superhero, and the Manticore divided and created these two shadows of themselves. Boogiepop Phantom and Manticore Phantom, right? The show is about Boogiepop Phantom and eventually Manticore Phantom, and what they do as a result of that. And it also follows these teenagers who get these powers. Now, when we think powers, we often think, Superman, X-Men, things like that. These are kind of lower level X-Men superpowers. So it's not the ability to, shoot laser beams out of your eyes or healing factors or things like that. Instead, we get to see characters who either have powers or are affected by people who had these powers and what that does to them. So, we follow these characters and see who they are and what they've become as a result of, again, either having these powers or knowing people who had these powers. Then there's this whole separate storyline, sort of a mystery that we're piecing together over the course of the story. There is this Dr. Kisugi, who is treating various characters, and you jump back in time. So Dr. Kisugi came across this drug, and she used it on a character named Nagi Kirima, who we also see in this show. And this drug gives people this sort of healing factor, but this very weird healing ability. It makes them stronger in strange ways, not just stronger as in, go back to normal, but stronger with new strength. And so she experiments on herself and starts finding humans to experiment on. One of the elements of this story is this idea of this serial killer who struck some years ago from the story. That serial killer is that doctor who's working on this drug, and that drug gets worked into the story. That you're seeing, in some cases, the effect of this drug. That said, most of the stories work and focus on one teenager affected by the column of light one way or the other. Others show this storyline between Dr. Kisugi, Nagi Kirima, and this detective, Shinpei Kuroda. The detective ended up passing away, but the echoes of his statements end up becoming very important in the rest of the story. We also follow other monsters. So the Manticore, that weird monster, was not the only monster out there. And we see others, like that police officer, who is also a monster. And we understand over the course of the series why they are scary and a little bit of why they're there. But they get woven into the story. They're there to tell you these things exist and they can do things. Not so much that they have specific, direct relevance to the end of the story, but they are driving different aspects of the story forward. The Column of Light also created this miasma, which you see in the show. The entire show is in this weird sepia-toned color palette. The character designer and animation director on Boogiepop Phantom was also, I believe, the animation director on Serial Experiments Lain. And it is supposed that he took a lot of what he saw in Lain, visually forward into this show and making it very visually distinctive and kind of washed out in that way. But whereas in Lain that was a style for its own storytelling purposes, but it wasn't really worked into the story. This sepia tone is part of the story. This visual thing is actually an element of what's going on. And we see in the end why that's going on. That is why in the ending, the colors are changed. Because that sepia tone is something that has infused this area of the world. And everyone's living in it, weirdly enough. So we have the monsters. We have Manticore Phantom out there, and the other monsters doing their things. We also follow Boogiepop Phantom. The Boogiepop Phantom is collecting teenagers. It's collecting the teenagers that were affected by the Column of Light. And interestingly, they were very careful in the dub of this, in the translation of this, to refer to the fact that Boogiepop takes you. Boogiepop collects you. The urban legend never explicitly says Boogiepop kills you, because Boogiepop Phantom does not. Boogiepop Phantom collects these teenagers for some later day when their powers can be used usefully. And that's a very important element of the story, that this is about what you do with those abilities, and it's not saying those abilities are bad. It is saying those abilities are things you have, and you need to figure out what to do with them. And eventually you will be called on to use your abilities. Boogiepop Phantom, like much anime, is about growing up. And that when you grow up, you gain new powers, new abilities, new ways of influencing the world. When you have a job, you influence people. When you're at college, you influence people in a way that you don't when you are in elementary school. And that is something that you need to grapple with and figure out how you're going to use that. And so that works into many of the themes of Boogiepop Phantom. We'll get to those in later videos. But that's the basic thing. You have the stories of these teenagers, the stories of Dr. Kisurugi and the drug, and the story of the monsters and Manticore Phantom and what they're doing and how all that's going on. Also, to explain something, the Manticore Phantom, in fact, the Manticore, not just the Phantom, the Manticore took over the student, Saotome, who we see in the first episode, and appears as Saotome, but is actually Manticore Phantom. And this gets into some of the things going on with the story, but again, we'll have to get to that later. But that is the weird thing about that character, is that he's actually a monster while also kind of being a person. And that is really key in many ways to Boogiepop Phantom. So again, we'll come back to Boogiepop Phantom. I hope that it helps to explain some of those plot elements. And I'll try to answer in the comments any specific questions. But again, I'll come back and dive into some of these specific story elements and some of these specific plot lines in later videos. So hopefully you'll understand all of those pieces. And we'll also explore some of the themes of the show and how those are revealed in various aspects of the show as it goes on. Hope this is helpful. See you in future videos.